Hey everybody, and welcome. Jonathan Broadbent here, your host of UnWoke.Academy. Welcome to another live noon Eastern Time Wednesdays. We're talking today about the Private Membership Association. So just a little bit of backstory and preface for anybody that doesn't know. We actually started as a newsletter. I started it a long time ago, calling out what I call the woke on Wall Street, which is far left influence in the world of finance. By the way, if you find yourself on the political left and advocating for things like social justice or environment or sustainability or those sorts of things, you too should be equally disappointed in Wall Street because the whole thing is a big charade. I've been calling it out for a long time, but that newsletter turned into Unwoke Investing, which turned into a much bigger thing, went online with this podcast and many like it under UnWoke.Academy, where I started doing a number of different things. Long form publication of the issues as I find them, what I call woke managers, the people who manage sometimes in the trillions of dollars, who have succumbed to not common sense, but the woke indoctrination of virtue signaling, none of which is relevant to managing things like people's pensions and those sorts of things. Finally, we launched a financial PMA, or private membership association. If you're not familiar with that term, you should be, because if you're concerned about things like private healthcare or nutrition, farming, agriculture, services, PMA, or private membership associations, have been around for a long time, and they've made their way through the court systems in all sorts of different settings. I believe that the financial PMA, and that is our website, financialpma.com, is a first of its kind. I think we're the first people to apply it to the world of finance. But as far as the legal underpinnings and how it's structured and the format and all that, it's been thoroughly vetted and tested. And it's you'll find on the website, I cite a series of Supreme Court cases that validate our approach to creating a private environment for people to manage their finances. By the way, as a related note, on top of all the other things that we are looking to do, including not giving our money to far left woke companies, causes, and countries, we're also looking to create some semblance of privacy in your financial life, which really effectively at this point in this day and age doesn't exist. If you think that technology, like your phone, is creepy and invasive and monitors you, you haven't seen finance yet because, oof, let me tell you, after a couple of decades, more than a couple of decades, working on Wall Street, it is it is an invasive species. The intention to learn as much about your financial life and control it is egregious and awful. So that's another underpinning of the PMA. Excuse me. But ultimately, the objective is to get you ramped up and informed. Yes, there is a financial PMA, and we'd be delighted to have you as a member, but there's no requirement. Everything we're doing and all the research and publication and all that stuff is made generally publicly available, and anybody can use it anywhere. If you have financial advisors in your life or do it on your own and trust what you have in place, great. Take our research there and apply it however you will. If you're applying it outside of the financial PMA, just know that what we're providing you with are research. It's our research. It's what's called caveat emptor. Whatever comes of it is your responsibility. And just like managing your own fill in the blank, education or healthcare or those sorts of things, really the first step is getting you informed on the issues, the people, the good actors, the bad actors, etc. So we've had a long series of guests on the program. It's time for you, my contemporaries, my peers, my I assume fellow Americans, or at least those who are pro-West. I do know that we have some followers from overseas in the UK. Howdy, um, welcome. A lot of what we talk about has to do with capital markets and certainly can be applied in the UK and elsewhere in the world. But for the most part, really my focus and a lot of our conversation revolves around things like how our money gets invested, mutual funds, and may include conversation about 401k plans, IRAs, and things like them. Those are investment vehicles that create tax sheltering in the United States. You can sort of tune that out if you're abroad. But focusing again on our American audience, I want to get you the right questions, the right people to ask those questions, and as many answers as possible so that you can better inform yourself. Connected to all of this, a lot of exciting things have happened. We have seen some growing pushback from, I won't say surprising players, but some pretty powerful entities, including some very large unions, several states, and at least one Secretary of State so far. It was the Secretary of State of Indiana who issued a statement pushing back against the DEI, CRT, ESG stuff that is being used by some in the world of finance in place of true practices in fiduciary due diligence. I know that's a kind of a mouthful, but it's there's a way that things have been done forever that makes sense, that everybody can see, it's transparent, it's clear, and it can illustrate that you know what you're doing and you're making a best effort to invest other people's money wisely. That's really what fiduciary boils down to. But now many people have replaced that, scaled it down, dumbed it down, and just packed a sort of placed a label of a veneer on their investment management of, I have to air quote this, sustainable or diversity, equity, and inclusion or environmental, social, and governance. And it takes people like me, I have a long background in looking into managers and evaluating their worth. That's been my primary job for many decades on behalf of some very large players. By the way, I do have a background on Wall Street. I left over a decade ago and went independent, which gave me the opportunity to start looking, knowing what to look for from the outside and playing sort of a, um, a magnifying glass on the woke of Wall Street. But when we allow managers to, instead of doing the right thing in a clear and transparent way and trying to find best advantage invest other people's money prudently and wisely, and instead just sort of smack a veneer on top of it, we get, well, where we are. Where we are is, and I've illustrated this, virtually, I can't say all, but many, 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 many mutual funds and the things like them, like ETFs, have ended up homogenous. They've ended up almost identical because when you tell the financial world, Wall Street, for lack of a better blanket term, when we tell Wall Street that it's only acceptable to invest in those companies that check these boxes, and say to the world that they have a diverse board, however you might define that, or that they're saving the environment or something, and they check those boxes and satisfy the oligarchs of Wall Street, those few people that really control the financial mechanisms of global finance, then capital markets is free to just effectively, they don't even need any staff anymore. They don't need anything or anyone. All they have to do is just funnel everybody into virtually the same small handful of companies and drastically overfund around 40-ish companies. Well, I'm sorry to say, but that's where we are right now. I've illustrated that in an episode called Parade of Woke Sameness. I actually did a little visual slideshow of the underlying investments of an array of different mutual funds, some of the largest mutual funds by investment dollars in 401k plans. So when you show that not only is the label false, that DEI, CRT, ESG stuff, you drill down on it, and it shouldn't satisfy anybody. It's really just these companies that have checked a few boxes, but nobody can actually define it. Um, so connected to that, of course, as we got sort of partway through that whole let's put daylight on the thing process and illustrate for people what was happening that's woke, that is undue, it's inappropriate. For in the US, we've got about $35.7 trillion, just giving a slush fund to woke far left globalist companies, causes, and countries. And that should be unacceptable to everybody, even people that may disagree with me. Here's one way of looking at it. If you're investing, whatever your political beliefs are, it doesn't make any sense to keep putting money into companies that really anybody sane and reasonable can justifiably argue is already overvalued. If it's preposterously overvalued, think of your neighborhood, for instance. Just to use an analogy, it occurs to me. If you have, let's say there's a house, there's one block in your neighborhood, and somebody comes along and says that this block, instead of the average home price being $200,000, it's $40 million per home. And we're going to collect a pool of money, and everybody should keep investing. And then before you know it, each home is on paper worth 60 million, and then $200 million. And so at what point do you balk and say, wait, that's not right? Because we should be investing in all kinds of different homes all throughout the neighborhood. And who in the right mind values a regular piece of real estate in your home at $200 million when everything around it is averages 200,000? It's just nonsense. So we do have some that occur to me are American Airlines Pilots Union, New York City Workers Union, 21, I believe, state attorneys general, and I mentioned the Secretary of State of Indiana are balking. They're saying this is ridiculous. If we're giving you money for our public employee pensions and the savings and investment dollars of states and huge union plans, those kinds of things, you have to have a reason and be able to come in front of a board that supervises you and answer questions about why you're investing the way that you're investing. And if, by the way, somebody like me comes along and realizes that that pension or state or public employee retirement account or whatever has been sold 20 different managers. And if I lift the hood and find that 18 of those 20 different managers are virtually identical in composition, then you have a tremendous lack of diversification. Out of that whole conversation came the Private Membership Association, because, of course, a lot of people said to me and posted, all right, thanks for highlighting the bad actors. And we started with the usual players. We did an expose on BlackRock and Vanguard, and we focused on State Street, and we've talked about all of those, in addition to lots of other types of posting. But people started asking, who are the good guys? And we have had some people that I think are definitely worth evaluation. This is not an investment recommendation. This is me giving you some questions to start asking yourself and the people around you, your financial institution. Do some searches online, for heaven's sakes. You're watching this on one of the social media platforms. By the way, if you're watching this live, real time, feel free to post questions. I'll do my best to get answers to you. If you watch this after the fact and a question occurs to you, you want to get a hold of me and ask questions, email info@unwokeinvesting.com. Info@unwokeinvesting.com. By the way, don't forget to smash that like button, make some comments, share this video. But ultimately, as we had some interviews with people like Matt Tuttle from Tuttle Capital was our guest. He had some very interesting investment portfolios that are one was it was XESG, so sort of like getting rid of ESG. It was called ESGX. I'd have to look that up. And one focused on Second Amendment rights in the US and self-defense called GUNZ. Those are interesting and compelling pooled investments. And we continue to talk about them and consider them. We've had Justin Bernier, who runs National Security Index. That was an amazing interview. In that one, it was, I think, May of last year, 2024, we exposed, or we talked about, a group that he's connected with and works with, and they have uncovered and presented to Congress early 2024 that some of these managers are using offshore investment managers to invest our money. That means you in your IRA account or 401k, some of those mutual funds you might be invested in, are finding their way into the use of the Chinese Communist Party in their funding military expansion. So who in their right mind would want to know, or everyone should know, but would want their money going into funding the expansion of nuclear capabilities, intercontinental ballistic missiles, expanding Navy and Air Force of the Chinese Communist Party? It's just, pardon me, let me take a sip of water. It's just not, it's not palatable. And as long as it stays sort of out of sight, out of mind, and hidden from people, I think there are trillions of dollars that have ended up taking that route. And our money is being used to fund things that work against us. That's not okay. I do get some questions, of course, about Vivek Ramaswamy, who's now actually running for governor in my state of Ohio. He makes some compelling stories. I hear pros and cons. I'm going to withhold my opinion. I personally have an opinion, but that's irrelevant to whatever is happening with Strive Financial, which I believe he's still connected with. They make some very compelling and interesting conversation. But in my book and the way that I operate and the way that I've been trained and worked for decades, I need more track record. I need more history in order to be able to assess and render an opinion of Strive Financial. So all of these, the NSI, that's the National Security Index with Justin Bernier, the Tuttle Capital issues, the ETFs that they have. ETF, by the way, is kind of like a mutual fund, a little bit different, just trades differently. Um, and others like them, Strive Financial, etc. We continue to talk about those in the financial PMA. But ultimately, if I'm going to encourage people to build a portfolio and make it unwoke, at this point, especially considering the fact that last year, 2024, I put out a formal request for information from money managers asking either to clearly articulate their use of these woke quasi veneer standards, this social justice stuff, or tell me that they're not using it. And I did speak with a lot of people. I'm probably over 500 phone conversations now. I know a lot of those managers. I've had lots of conversations, but no actual formal answer in either regard. Um, no acknowledgement of managers that are not using the stuff and sticking to the tried and true, what are called fundamentals of business analysis and investment due diligence. And none of them, either in response to me or on their website, annual report or quarterly reports, or on the social justice realm of their website, subsites, or anywhere I can find, do any of them actually clearly articulate how they're defining the ESG, DEI, woke stuff. So that tells me they're you're building on quicksand. And the proof, I think, is in the pudding. You end up with all those money managers, investment managers, things like mutual funds, all sort of virtually corralled into almost identical investments. And at that point, why on earth would anybody pay a financial advisor and investment management fees in order to put your money into the same investments everybody else is put into that are, I continue to argue, ridiculously overvalued? So, and you've seen my list of the culprits. It's the same things over and over again, maybe slight differences in how much as a percentage, but you've got Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and a handful of others that are just preposterously funded. I mean, they're funded to the point right now where the most recent, it was a news article, I've shared it several times, something like an average $16.7 million bonus, effectively bonus, was paid to the CEOs of a bunch of these companies that agreed to go woke. Well, if they're in the position that the stock price is so overvalued, they can just be lavished this gift of almost $17 million for harming their own brand. Many of them had to scale back and close stores and fire people. That is completely backward and wrong. So enter the private membership association. To those people who said, what should we be doing? We created this. So this is a list. This actually represents an individual who has made a series of stock purchases. That as an answer, because we are not finding a family of investments managers that do things like mutual fund or an ETF or something, we're not finding enough yet who are clear and clear-eyed about not being woke. So why would we pay often two layers of fees? Why would you pay to have a financial advisor who effectively, and I can't say universally, but broadly speaking, many different financial advisors at these mega financial institutions are, I think it's beyond incentivized. They're pressured to put everybody into a, a small number of mutual funds that end up virtually identical. And we exposed it. Go back and watch the episode that I did on Yosemite Sam. That is an alias to protect the identity of that individual family. But we exposed this stuff. This person on October 7th and October 8th, double checking my notes here, of 2024 made a series of trades. They bought all these different companies. And by the way, if you look underneath the hood of a mutual fund, it's going to look like this or something like it. They're going to have a whole series of investments in different companies, and they may change their allocation, 5% to this company and 2% to this company, and that may fluctuate. But ultimately, this is the thing people need to know when you're putting money in a 401k. By the way, there's nothing stopping um, virtually any 401k from giving you the option to invest in things like this and don't pay the manager fee. Financial advisors most universally don't like that because it makes the fees transparent. You can eliminate some of the fees that you pay to what are called plan advisors, and the management fee evaporates. You will have trading costs, but overwhelmingly in this environment, trading costs are so inexpensive now. I'm hard pressed to find examples of people who are way better off financially to pay small trading fees rather than a consistent eroding management fee. And ultimately, what we've ended up with are performance. You can see some are up, some are down, but through the 16th of June, so that was just a little over a week ago. So again, these were purchased on October 7th and 8th in two different accounts, and through June 16th. So we have like 8 months. Through those 8 months, we have an unrealized gain in the first portfolio of 37.80%, and in the larger portfolio of 38.54%. And so we actually, in that larger one, it has everything to do with the way that the investments were allocated, how much into each investment. The average, just the average of those investments, of these, from um, October 8th through June 16th, the average was 43.29%. And all of this goes back to several episodes that I've done. If you are Make America Great Again, America First, and interested in free market economy and funding what could be the next new thing, the next new business, not the same 40 globalist companies that are all sort of co-owned by the same billionaire cabal, but maybe the next new thing, and maybe it's your neighbor, somebody across the state from you who has some new idea, and they're working hard to build the next new thing in some industry or marketplace. They need funding. That is ultimately what this is. It's funding, it's applying your money to participate in the future growth of these great companies. And I suggest, so we've done our research on these and suggested them. We ultimately landed on this collection. This isn't the total of our research. We have a lot more companies that we've researched. Some get crossed off the list because we see them go woke. They're doing things that our average listener wouldn't approve of, like well, fill in the blank. It's some woke nonsense, and that means that they're collecting profit, corporate profit, and applying that profit to undermine America and the West and Western values. As soon as they start doing that, we cross them off the list. This is the list of companies that did not do that. They're focused on something, doing something, and we worked very hard with this individual to create an eclectic, diverse mix of investments that is a diverse portfolio, and we weren't swinging for the fence. We're not trying to knock it out of the park, but we are. It's unintended. I had no idea. I literally supervised this whole thing, and from inception and those trades, I had no idea that we would be looking north of 30% returns in 8 months. So, yes, it is true. There are some people that periodically ask me questions about things like day trading, whether or not they should have precious metals. Gold comes up all the time, or cryptocurrency. I don't really have a comment on that, other than to say I am not a fan of day trading. The others, probably, if you're comfortable with it, it may make sense to have a sleeve of your investment portfolio in crypto or gold or things like it. Pardon me, but only under in a diverse portfolio. My every instinct tells me everybody should have a good mix of different types of investments. And if you believe in Trump's America First investment policy, which released on February 21st of this year, 2025, that's the America First investment policy issued by the White House on February 21st, 2025. These are the types of investments that I suggest you should be considering. And again, you can be talking about building these inside of an IRA account, a 401k, wherever you're doing your investing. If you end up joining the financial PMA, we'd love to have you. As I said, we will create an environment where we're all encouraging each other, talking, researching, analyzing. A few days ago, I released a series of questions from an individual pertaining to exactly this and how it works. You might have those same questions. In the PMA, we have a culture of communication, asking those questions, finding those answers, and working together and encouraging each other. It's very different than the Wall Street mentality of some firm, some financial institution trying to collect all your money and bring all of your relationship and your investments and your kids' savings accounts and your banking and whatever all under one umbrella. With everything in the financial PMA, we don't care. We're agnostic, wherever your money is. If you have a relationship with a financial institution or do online trading or something, just apply the research that we've done wherever you want. It doesn't matter to us. So, and if you know somebody who works in finance or you yourself work in finance, take what we're doing and duplicate it. As I said, I believe we're still the only financial PMA, but I think there should be a lot more. I think that it should be the business model of the future instead of the big mega globalist, just like doctors are leaving mega hospital and going independent so they can once again focus on serving the needs and wants of their individual patients without or that corporatized mega hospital structure. In the same way, I suggest that people who work in finance should once again get that boot heel of globalist banks and Wall Street off their neck and get to the place where they can better serve the clients that they claim to serve. And a PMA is a great way of establishing that and working to create some semblance of privacy. Thanks again for listening. Don't forget to hit that like button. The plan is to do one of these every Wednesday. And if you do have questions, I'd love to get those answered. Who knows? There may be other people out there with the very same question you have. Tune back in again next Wednesday. We'll be into the month of July. Wow. How quickly is this year going by? So that will be July 2nd, Wednesday, July 2nd at noon Eastern time. In the meantime, feel free to comment with any questions, and we look forward to seeing you then. We probably will have more episodes, and I'm working on some great new guests, but this is a dedicated time to talk about the PMA. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day.